Hey, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone out there. Welcome to the inaugural What Caught My Eye podcast. This is our weekly show. My name is Nick Vesci. I'm alongside the boy, Stephen Vesci, and the man, Stephen Komlo. Here at What Caught My Eye, our whole goal is we want to go through a rundown of the most notable, eye-catching things that we've seen to the last week in sports. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to stick kind of a list of Monday through Sunday. So we're recording on a Monday. We like to release on a Tuesday. And we're going to give you what you may have missed over that last week to kind of help set you up for the next week of sports viewing and fandom. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get ourselves started. Again, starting with last Monday.
Let it rip.
Yes, sir. Got leading off, my first thing from that Monday was Caitlin Clark, the great Caitlin Clark, as we all should know by now, setting the NCAA scoring record for her career not that long ago. But last Monday, in her second round game in the NCAA tournament, she matched up with the very scrappy West Virginia Mountaineers from West by God, Virginia. And Caitlin Clark somehow, if you watch that game, somehow wound up scoring over her season average. But it was a tough, very hard-fought, physical battle. I thought a brilliant strategy by West Virginia and their coach to know that they were overmatched a little bit and keep that game close and to legitimately have a shot to win.
Their defense was phenomenal. I know the foul differential was there, but they moved their feet so well to get in position. They were physical. I mean, they made her work. She airballed a three. She had 6 turnovers, I think, to 3 assists, which she never has.
No,
she's usually her average, but how much of that came from the foul line?
10.
Her last 10 points, or about 10 points, were at the foul line, just because the way the game dictated at the end, and she was the one with the ball in her hand getting fouled. But give her the credit, though. This is how
she made her free throws.
Yeah, it's not great scorers on off nights, which is what, if you watch the game, what's an off night for her? This is how you get above your average or stay at your average, is you convert when you need to. She could have easily crumbled, right? But she didn't. I think, to her credit, she didn't. I think being at home helped, right? The women's NCAA tournament for those first
that
couple
definitely
rounds,
didn't hurt.
She was she was at home, but West Virginia took a very VCU-like approach, as we know of that old Havoc defense that they used to run to the
this
national
girl,
title. It was smart.
That girl JJ Quinterly is a dog.
Yeah,
she was in my opinion, I thought she was the best player on the floor that night.
Yeah, when she fouled out, that was kind of
she was playing hurt too,
but yeah, that give West Virginia a ton of credit. Overmatched, outgunned in a very hostile road environment in an NCAA tournament to keep that game.
Do you see Iowa played a triangle in 2? I don't think I've never seen that in a Division I game.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, they played a triangle in 2 on Quinterly and one of the other girls. I forget who it was, but yeah, they went triangle in 2.
Yeah, but again, give credit to West Virginia, but also give the credit to Iowa. Again, on an off night, you find ways to win. The NCAA tournament is all about finding ways to win. It's, as you, boy, have pointed out several times before,
survive in
it's
advance.
Really hard to win the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
And it is all survive in advance. And at the end of the day, no one sits there and takes away from you because you had a 1-point win versus a 30-point win. No. A win is a win, and Iowa, in their quest to get that ultimate thing, Caitlin Clark's quest to get her ultimate goal, which is that national title, was able to come through on that day. And that was nice to watch. I like that.
Well, I'm sure the people at the NCAA are also very happy. I mean, because we have a highlight reel.
We have Iowa LSU
matchup. Yeah, we have there's no doubt that ratings are going to drop after this game. I mean, up to this point, the female tournament has been setting records that are above WNBA playoff games. And they're I think I saw that at one point in the Iowa game, they maxed out at over 7 million concurrent viewers. That's huge. That chops away any previous record. It doesn't they're a whole body length ahead in ratings on that game alone.
That was also her last home game too, because the women's tournament does something different from the men's, where if you're the top 4 seed, you get to host the first 2 rounds, which
is wild.
Yeah, that's, to me, it makes kind of no sense, but
well,
Got her a W.
Mm-hmm. It does make it harder for you to have an upset, I believe.
Yeah,
but
way harder.
Yeah, again, thought that was great. Also, that night staying on the hard court. As we move on in the NBA, DeAndre Hunter from
Virginia,
and his Atlanta Hawks, playing without Trae Young, completed a 30-point comeback against the Celtics, the East-leading Celtics. And Hunter had the big shot at the end. I think he had 24 points, was really efficient, and kind of showed why he was a top, I think, 4 pick in the draft when he came out.
Previous national champion as well.
Yes, he was. Who's no stranger to big shots, as we know from that run. But I thought that was cool. Nice to see. They're fighting for their playoff lives, the Hawks. So to see a gutsy performance like that again against...
You know where the coach of the Celtics is from?
West by God, Virginia. Joe Mazzulla.
Before we get into, just the overall specs of that game-winning shot, what does the Celtics team look like? Are they good?
Really good. They're the best team.
I don't follow the NBA all that much.
So they're legit.
Is it more impressive that they came back, or is it more impressive that a Celtics team was up by that much?
Like that they came back. The Celtics, I believe, this year have the NBA record for most. Is it 30, 40, or 50-point victories in a season? They are. They've and what's crazy is they've had a couple collapses like this, but they've had some games where they've just blown teams out of the water like it's nothing. I mean, they are very consistent. They made the move over the summer to trade Malcolm Brogdon to the Trailblazers, and the reason they did that was to open up the spot for Kristaps.
Oh, I forgot about Kristaps.
The unicorn. Remember when he came out?
Yeah, he was a big deal.
He being on the court has been a game changer because the Celtics last year were one of the worst teams scoring out of the post, like almost in NBA history, one of the worst, right? And so Porzingis has changed his game and evolved where he is, the last couple of years, the most efficient scorer out of the post, and on a trajectory right now we're highest in NBA history in a couple year stretch of scoring out of the post that efficiently in terms of points per possession. And so that addition of him to the court they already had was a brilliant move from their front office and is paying the dividends right now. I mean, that's a big reason because he's taking pressure off of Jason Tatum. He's taking pressure off of Jaylen Brown. You have other role players like a Peyton Pritchard, who I know you love from Oregon.
Oh, he was
in his
great.
College days. He's
great
the perfect
at Oregon.
Change of pace guy you want to throw out there. Sam Hauser's getting some good minutes from
UVA.
And Luke Cornett, a backup center, has been playing some tough stuff.
UVA guys.
So, everywhere. But yeah, so the Celtics are for real. The issue, though, is these types of collapses. They've had things like this before where you kind of shake your head and go, God, guys, you walked out here and blew the doors off of the Magic by 40, but then you go and blow a 30-point lead to the Hawks, who are without ostensibly their best player and game changer. Those are inexcusable things that just can't happen, and championship teams don't do that. So that's where there's a lot of the qualms with that, and some of their
good word.
Yeah, good word, qualm.
But yeah,
nerd from UVA.
I don't. That's not quone.
Quone. Yeah, you gonna quone something?
Yeah. That is not a difficult word, but okay, we'll go with that. But yeah, Celtics are legit. I still think the Nuggets, who we'll get to later in the show, you have to be your title favorites because there's been no drop in anything they've done this year. So moving on from the Celtics, the other thing on Monday, which really did shake up a lot of people and caught a lot of people's ire and attention, was Shohei Ohtani's statement, his first statement after the theft allegations against his former interpreter, Mizuhara
Ippei.
Yeah. Break that down real quick. What's the situation with Shohei and Ippei?
So, some may know last week Ippei, gave an interview that wasn't published yet, but with ESPN when they got a hold of kind of illegal gambling allegations against him where he was making bets with an illegal bookie in California. And they asked Ipe, what's going on? Ipe seemed to give a pretty candid interview, almost not thinking of the ramifications of it, and was just like, I met this bookie at a poker game in San Diego a couple years ago. I've been betting on stuff with him. I never bet on baseball, but I bet on all different other sports, and I've racked up $4.5 million in gambling debt to this guy. And I went to my friend Shohei, and I was like, hey, can you help me out? I'm in debt. Can you pay my debt? And Shohei was like, sure, I'll pay your debt. And Ipe said that they sat there at the computer and Shohei wired him the money, and that there's, bank statements that have Ohtani's name going directly to this bookie who's under federal investigation because it's illegal to, do that type of bookmaking in the state of California.
By the government now.
Yep. And Ipe came out and said that and thought, no big deal. My friend was just helping me pay off the debt, whatever. And immediately, it was like firestorm. We're at DEF CON 8, and he walked back his statement and said, actually, I've been stealing from Shohei the whole time. Ohtani had no idea any of this was going on. I've been the one stealing from him. And that's where it took time for Ohtani to make his statement, partly because last week when this was coming out, they were in Seoul, Korea, playing their first games against the Padres. Komlo,
before we get into Shohei's statement, I just want to highlight real quick how fast the Dodgers changed their tone over the course of that 90-minute interview. It's nuts. Because at first he's like, oh, okay, yeah, Ipe gambles. There's nothing wrong with that. And then you bring out then he starts dropping Poster Boy's name and Poster Boy Shohei giving up the money. It's like, whoa. This guy is not with us. We don't claim him. Who the heck is he? And the plug gets pulled on that interview so quickly. It's wild. Oh, yeah. It's wild to watch.
I think the MLB has their own investigation. If you're the MLB, I mean, you're saying you're investigating, but you don't want to go anywhere near this.
You are tamping down that burial site so no one finds that skeleton, bro. Yeah. And I'm not saying one way or the other, because obviously when Nick gets into it, I mean, the statement Shohei makes, it on the surface it doesn't seem like a lot, but the words that he chose and threw out there in his statement, if he's not telling the truth, opens him up to defamation, slander, all sorts of lawsuits. I mean, it's definitely a very calculated, lawyer written, verbatim thing that he was supposed to read and give, right?
Which he needed to. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's a young dude. He needs someone to really tell him, dude,
the other thing too is, he's in a different country, right? There's things that you just don't know. We could go to literally any other country in the world, and there are laws that we're not aware of, or things we just don't understand culturally or socially. So that's why I think the whole thing came out, and Ipe and Shohei maybe didn't really think anything of it. I think that's very possible. There was a cultural disconnection going on there, but Ohtani's statement, big thing was he's shocked and saddened that
Caitlin Clark before Caitlin Clark, pretty. I'm sorry, not pretty great.
Ipe's been stealing from him for years, and like you said, the statement was calculated. It had to happen. It was smart. It was pretty well done. It does bring in some questions because kind of the story that now is that Ipe had access to Ohtani's information and was able to log in there and transfer him the money and forge his name and stuff. And a lot of people were like, well, how does that happen? How did that happen without you knowing? But just to play devil's advocate, first off, you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, that you're allowed to be able to claim and stake what you said or what you think happened, right, without people jumping to conclusions. And it is, again, in a different country where this guy is basically doing everything for you. Lest we forget, this guy's carrying his background. He is, So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Shohei had given him his login information, right?
Yeah, I mean, the only person be as simple as he's paying my bills and shit too. I just walked into a bag of money. Yeah.
And I have so much money, I may have not even noticed $4.5 million, which again is conceivable, right? So there are a lot of things there that on the surface you can try to poke holes in, but at the end of the day, you do have to take Ohtani as word until something comes out that is detrimental to him. And what he said is in the realm of possibility. It is, you could see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, if you're MLB, you take his word.
Yeah.
Settles it. Done.
And hope that like
Hope
F-
that
the
nothing
FBI,
else.
hope that
Yeah,
the
FBI's not
FBI
looking
and the
at it.
IRS and Homeland Security doesn't find something.
What's interesting is right after Ippei said he had stolen from Otani, the feds in Southern California opened an investigation strictly into Ippei and the theft allegations. And the rumor on the street is that it was Otani's people who, after hearing Ippei said it, thinking, oh, we've got to change the narrative, went over to the FBI and said, hey, please open an investigation into this. So that's where that controversy comes, but Otani's people had no comment. That
seems a little wild. Like,
I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility when you think about just human nature, but
where do you even go to? It's not like walking into a precinct and filing a report. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, let me just jaunt on over to the feds. You know what I mean? Like,
you got to think they've got some powerful people.
Right? Yeah. No, that's a good point.
And powerful contacts. So that's where it's like, not the craziest thing in the world. But yeah, that was the big thing with Otani's statement, the people, the reaction to it. And like I said, we just go from here. MLB said they really haven't been doing anything yet. Otani is, again, under no investigation. There has been nothing that has come out. No one said that Otani's bet on anything himself. No one said Otani's bet on baseball, which would be the worst thing that could ever happen to baseball. In all honesty, like, you thought the steroid era was bad.
Yeah, for
at least those guys got to play in the games. And Pete Rose, when it happened to Pete Rose, was at the end of his career.
It was when he was a player coach,
or
something.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're talking possibly the greatest baseball player who's ever walked the planet, a worldwide icon. And that happening to him would be, you can't even fathom the consequences.
Deeper than hell.
The ramifications. Yeah. It would be insane.
Strike his name from the record books.
Yeah, God, it would be. Right, the only 2-time unanimous MVP in league history, we're gonna erase or try to. It's just it would be horrible.
Smite me, Almighty.
But that's where we stand right now with Otani. Just that statement. I got a bonus though, sticking in the world of baseball
for Monday. Right?
Yes, it was announced that Aaron Judge, captain of the New York Yankees, will appear in a Rubble and Crew episode this summer. If you're not familiar with Rubble and Crew. Rubble is the construction pup from Paw Patrol, right? Very popular kids show. If you got kids, you watch it all the time. I must have watched a few dozen episodes today myself. Mostly Rubble and Crew today, though. They were on. And Judge is going to appear in the episode. Rubble and Crew takes place in Builder Cove. Rubble and his cousins, they're all builder pups, and they construct things out of nothing a lot of times. And so Judge is going to wind up getting stranded in Builder Cove.
Well, don't give away the plot.
Well, this is common stuff. He's going to get stranded in Builder Cove, and Rubble.
I haven't seen it yet. I want to go in fresh.
Firestorm. That's a hell of a film. But yeah, so he'll get stranded in Builder Cove. Rubble and Crew got to help him out, and the episode's going to come out over the summer. So I thought that was cool.
It's neat. I mean, I chalk it up. There's no way he's collecting a check, right? I mean, this has to be purely
he
philanthropic.
About a lot of it was kind of blending his charity work together.
I was about to say it has to be
his charity work.
You can't cash a check
kids.
from Rubble and Crew, whatever it's called. I mean,
his charity works with kids, and he's a big dog enthusiast. And
the only thing,
blended those together.
I don't have kids, for the listeners. I don't have kids, so this show isn't even on my radar. But what is on my radar is this dude is worried about his TV show and his voice acting career. But meanwhile, he's got to compete with the Orioles. Shout out Baltimore. Let's go. Slow start to the season for Judge. Season for Judge.
Yeah, well, the team just swept the Astros.
No thanks to Judge. Shout out Juan Soto. DC misses you.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, that was talk about mismanaged organizations. The Nats have got to be up there. I was talking to our boy.
Which DC sports team is mismanaged more? Nats or Commanders?
Well, so you can't say Commanders because they
just changed, right?
Yeah,
but
it's a new era.
Like 2 years ago, I guess. Yeah, new era of football.
You would have to go with
Commanders.
The Commanders, yeah. Back then, but right now it's unfair to judge. But we've got stuff on the Nats, and as people who from the DMV area, watch a lot of Nats, go to a lot of Nats games. We just watched them.
Never been.
Decimate a World Championship roster, which happens sometimes, but they didn't even.
I don't know. Trey Turner and Soto are the two guys you had to keep.
Yes, and you mean to tell me you have no way to shell out for at least one of them? That's asinine.
It's crazy watching watching their old talent that they won the title with proceed to get old and not really get a lot of help. I mean, Strasburg and Scherzer. I mean, they had other pitchers on the team, but it feels like they didn't bring in their farm system just must be awful.
Well, they reloaded allegedly their farm system when they traded Soto to San Diego, and those guys really haven't panned out. C.J. Abrams got some big pop as a shortstop, but low batting average and inconsistent defense. Mackenzie Gore, the pitcher, has not looked good. The catcher, Keibert Ruiz, has looked pretty good. Switch hitting catcher, good piece. And the Scherzer trade, they got Josiah Gray, who's been pretty good. But a lot of other guys out there have not really done well.
Who's the team under the Nats?
What do you mean?
What do you mean, their minor league?
Yeah, who's their minor league team? Yeah,
Harrisburg.
Oh, that was double
Senators.
Yeah. Okay.
Harrisburg, PA.
I thought
Rochester too. Yeah, it's double A. Rochester.
Because down here we got the Fred Nats, which is obviously their low summer league team.
It's Rochester.
We've gotten to see some good names out of there. We saw Brady House in his inaugural season after he got that $5 million bonus signing check. It was pretty cool to watch him play, but I don't think he'll be up there for another year or two.
Who they drafted Dylan Cruz, right?
Yeah,
was that from LSU? Shortstop.
Yes, it was from LSU because they him and Skeens were the big ones to go, right? Yeah, Skeens.
Yeah, Skeens. He's going to be in the show very soon.
Yes,
they already got someone from that draft in the show.
Wyatt Langford. Yeah, he's on the Rangers too, right?
Yes, he is.
They won the World Series and bring in this guy who's raking.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Well, wait, real quick before we get off the Nats and Dylan Cruz, when I typed in Dylan Cruz into the Google machine, the first result isn't what team did Dylan Cruz get drafted to. It's what does Dylan Cruz's dad do for a living?
Why? Is he in waste management? Is that why?
No, it says Dylan Cruz's father, George, has owned a commercial printing business named Cruz Inc. and has worked as a regional salesperson for the Southeaster Printing.
Why is that? Is it real life?
I don't know why that's the top result.
Is he yoked or something? Is it Bryce Harper's dad where he's shredded? And they're oh, this guy absolute psychopath. His kid was meant to be something.
His dad looks like a character. Okay. That it makes a lot more sense now. His dad looks like a character.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on to Tuesday. We only got through Monday.
Yeah, people, fair enough.
You got to stick with us here. But we're on Tuesday now. Big news Tuesday was the NFL rule changes and the announcement of Christmas Day games, which was interesting. As we were talking about before we got on, those Christmas Day games are Wednesday, which is crazy, right? The last couple of years it was all right. It was Sunday and a Monday. Very understandable. These are traditional NFL day games. We're going to play the games, no issue. But now it's a Wednesday.
Yeah, NBA
is pretty unprecedented. Week.
NBA is well, I'm sure they're probably built in a bye. Yeah, they would build in a bye to get you to the Wednesday.
How does the Players Association allow that?
Well, because those
I feel like they get enough shit for Thursday games.
Well, what'll happen is they'll play a Thursday game the week before, and then
or it'll be coming off a bye week or something.
Off a bye week.
But the NBA has got to be so upset. The NBA, I mean, they just keep getting. Who's going to watch an NBA game? NFL's king.
I already don't.
I already don't either.
But I mean, that was the one day, like you said, that was the one day where it was all right.
Christmas Day is NBA.
There's nothing on the sports calendar but an NBA game, so I'm going to sit back and I'm going to watch those 5 straight games. Nope, hockey was always on break. They take a holiday break. Yep.
Class act from hockey.
That's always the NBA day was Christmas. NFL, you get Thanksgiving, Christmas Day, NBA, and like you said, I mean, I
NFL said
nope.
The
NBA games.
I'll say the
NFL games, yeah.
Mind if I
Unless the NFL
scooch in
games
here?
are bad. Yeah, let me slide my way in.
All right, so we got Christmas Day.
And the kickoff change, though, really interesting. I don't know if you've watched any of those games where they've used that before, back when the XFL was doing that. This kickoff change is slightly different from what the XFL had. The XFL had these guys lining up downfield about 5 yards apart from each other, almost like if you're doing a tackling drill and you line the guys up like on the yard marker, and you couldn't go until the returner touched the ball, right? So the NFL has now adopted something similar. Instead of 5 yards apart, though, these guys are about 15 yards apart. But it's still, there's only one person back there by the ball kicking in. It's the kicker. They're going to kick the ball off, and there can be 2 returners, max 2 returners back there. And none of the blockers or defenders can move until that ball is touched, which is, pretty interesting that they went to that. I think it's going to create a possibly more explosive plays, because now you've set it up for, we're essentially running a play, right? It's going to change who you put out there too, because no longer you're going to have to cover 60-yard sprints. You're covering like a linebacker, going through the wash, getting to his lane and filling a gap. So I think it'll be really interesting how they do that. I think special teams coordinators got to sit down and take a hard look at how we structure our kickoff coverage and our kick return. I mean, I could even envision, because you have to be lined up, you can't be further back, right? Put a safety line up right there. The second the guy touches it, that guy hauls ass backwards to be the safety, like an actual safety that you would have in a play. So instead of him being 10 yards away from the
because once he gets to that line,
to his 20
there's
yards,
no
and now, exactly. Because if you break through that line, you have it structured straight across. There's no angle for someone to get to him. So
can they set it
cool
up
change.
like a defense where you, I don't know, put down like five guys up front, and then 3 linebackers or something, and 2 guys behind?
No, because they can't be any further back. That's the point. You don't want to get
because you can't get
30, 40, 50-yard run starts.
Right.
So they're already, I think,
they're
15
all
yards apart.
Okay.
I don't know if you have to line up in front of someone. Like, can I put all of my guys on this side of the field? They're at the yard marker, but I'm just going to have them all over here. Can I do that? I don't know. They didn't really get into specifics on that detail, because that was my first thought. It's like, let's create a play. Make it a play. I'm going to have,
which is what's going to happen.
I'm going to put a guard out there, and I'm going to have him pull around and lead and cool stuff like that, which I think you may see happen. I think
it's going to be creative. I think this is a good idea.
I think they're going to want to, and I think there's obviously going to be a dial-in process during preseason as well. They're going to want to see what sort of like Belichick-minded coaches come up with like a loophole, right, to maximize its potential, and then it's going to be like huge gotcha moment, and it's going to lead to some like game-breaking play, and everyone's going to be whining about it or celebrating it, and then it's going to change. Week one, it'll be different.
You're going to see adjustments. They don't change the rule, but you're going to see adjustments. I think you're right. Initially, it's going to be boring. You're not going to see much, because they got to figure out what works, what doesn't. And then, like you said, you'll see some guys try something. Oh, this didn't work. And then eventually you'll see someone figure something out. And as we know, it's a copycat league. Remember the whole Wildcat formation, the Dolphins ran that to success. Everyone adopted it. Now it's in every playbook, and it doesn't really do much, but it's still there now. I think that's what you're going to see in these kick returns. Someone's going to figure something out. There's going to be a trend started, and I do think it's really cool. I'm all in favor of it. I know, obviously, when you make change, people have, here's your word again, qualms about that change.
Hey.
But it's good.
Less impressive the second time.
My next thing on Tuesday, the New York Rangers.
Wait, hold on real quick. I'm sorry. We talked about the kickoff. We didn't have any. We're not going to talk about hip drops.
Yeah. That's
because, and like really the first thing that comes to mind. I can't remember the game, but do you guys remember that play when I think it was either Geno or Russell Wilson threw that pick, and DK Metcalf ran the length of the field to make the tackle? Hip drop tackle. Imagine a play like that happening, and it gets called back.
Yeah. And Dyson to the end zone.
It's a
the Super Bowl.
It's a 15-yard penalty, and it's totally up for interpretation on the ref's side.
It's not. So what I read and heard is that it's not necessarily set in stone that this is going to be a 15-yard penalty. A lot of the way it's going to be policed will be, you'll get a letter after the league reviews games. You get a letter on Monday saying you've been fined $10,000 for this tackle.
Yeah.
But what you do have to remember too, a hip drop tackle is different than if I wrap and roll. That's not a hip drop tackle. Which the Dyson to the end zone no tackle was a wrap and roll perfect technique tackle. The hip drop tackle is where you are essentially the same way when you do the horse collar tackle or when you grab someone's shoulders and you pull down, you jump on their legs. That's a hip drop tackle. Is I'm grabbing them at the waist and then I'm almost wrestling them down like I'm a rodeo calf wrestling, right? And I wrestle them down and use my body weight to get them.
Well, I mean, it was
wrap and roll.
We went with rodeo wrestling.
It is rodeo wrestling. Go turn on the rodeo. Go to a rodeo.
Rodeos are sweet.
Rodeos are sweet.
Flip over to the PBR channel.
It's on somewhere.
It's on all the time.
Yeah, it's on Sports Network. Yeah.
My thing is like, yes,
they were in Idaho this week.
The big headline is obviously like hip drop tackles illegal now, but I think like the bigger, like the headline that I don't think a lot of people are talking about. And I'm going to give you baseball players some credit here. The hardest thing to do in baseball, or hardest thing to do in sports, hit a baseball. Second hardest thing, by far, play goddamn defense in the NFL. Like,
well, DB is almost impossible.
DB, corner, I mean, it's ridiculous. They just keep taking weapons away from these guys. It's just we want to have a scoring fest. It's kind of crazy. It's crazy how this happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's you see this in all sports. So hockey went through it, basketball went through it, where people. Well,
the NBA is unwatchable.
People watch for offense.
Definitely during the regular
you put
season.
rules in to increase offense, but you also do in a sport like football where it is so physical. Like it's not a contact sport; it's a collision sport. People get hurt all the time. When you step on that field, this may be it for me, right? So you want to maximize the safety when you're out there, and if there's something you can do that can help, you do it. And this is going to take guys adjustments. Just the same way when we introduce the head-to-head contact and the launching, it's going to take adjustments because all that was done too to get people on the ground as fast as possible. But there are still ways to tackle without doing this, right? We still see horse collar tackles, but you don't see them as much anymore.
Yeah, but right? All right. So what's going to happen when they adjust, and then the adjustment's going to hurt someone, and then that will get banned.
It's everything is fluid.
It's like
Frank's fluids.
I just feel like this. Yeah, it's fluid, but it's to the point where like the line in the sand just keeps getting pushed back.
Yeah, well, that's everything. You could say it's everything in life. That's really things don't stay the same. Things
I don't really
change
care about a lot of
constantly.
things in life. I care about my football.
The status quo.
Yeah. Oh.
It's necessary because I think the other issue was that allegedly there's a defensive coordinator out there who was deliberately teaching his players to do this to like hurt people.
Was it the Bengals? Because
Greg Williams.
Wilson's the one that got tagged for it twice.
Shout out Greg Williams.
I don't know who it is. I didn't see if
shout out Greg Williams.
And that was my first thought too. Was big double G Greg.
Mm-hmm.
He's already got Bounty Gate under his belt. But yeah, that was a big issue too. Is that now you're teaching people to do something has a extremely high injury rate just because you say I don't care, injure the person, knocks them out of the game, whatever, right? So it'll be an adjustment. I know initially I was like, what the hell, man? Like you said, taking another thing away from defenders who are already in a compromised position, but it's probably something they had to do. That you can't have, right? We're going to wait to put in a rule, and when Patrick Mahomes destroys his leg and isn't the same anymore, and we've ruined his career, right? It's just not. You don't.
Well, that's what happened with Brady.
It is what happened with Tom. Tom.
That's why you can't hit him. That's why you can't hit any QB in the legs or roll back on him, I guess, or whatever it is.
The horse collar rule was introduced after T.O. They let guys do it, and then T.O. Had
Roy
a
Williams,
ankle injury. Was it Roy?
Was that Roy Williams?
Who did it? It might have been Roy Williams. Cowboys when T.O. was on the Eagles.
Yeah, I knew it was a Cowboys safety.
Yeah. Yep.
So, anyways, I wanted to bring up hip drops because I think that's
good.
bigger than I think that's just as big, if not bigger, than kickoffs.
Yeah, I agree.
I concur.
Dope.
moving on Tuesday, we now make our first envoy into ice. Peter Laviolette, head coach of the New York Rangers, became the fourth fastest head coach in NHL history to reach the 800-win plateau when his Rangers defeated the Flyers 6-5 in OT. Flyers, coached by former Rangers headman John Tortorella. Laviolette, former Flyers coach. They actually used to coach against each other when they coached the opposite teams. So that's always fun when they get together. But the Rangers padding their playoff hopes, close to clinching, if not clinched already. But that nice OT win. But
wait, who did you say is close to clinching?
Rangers.
Rangers have clinched.
They've clinched? Okay.
Yeah, Rangers have clinched. And that game against the Flyers was really weird because as a Caps fan, the Caps, the Red Wings, and the Flyers are all vying for that wild card spot. And so it was really weird to watch my boys, Craig Laughlin and Joe B, call the game, and they kept shouting it. They kept kicking it over to the Rangers game and even Joe B took the words right out of my mouth. He said it's really weird saying "Go Rangers," and Laughlin had a great line where he goes, "Go Blue Shirts." It's like, I won't say it, Joe. Say it, Joe B.
Oh, Alexander the Great. Oh, Johnny on the spot.
He said, "I won't call them the Rangers, Joe B. Go Blue Shirts." End of the year for hockey.
How do you listen to those games, man? I can't listen to the Caps announcers.
On the Monumental Sport Network. Thanks, Ted.
Yep, it grows
on
you.
Shout out Ted Leonsis.
Yep, it grows on you. They grow on you a little bit.
They've been doing it for 25 years.
Pretty amazing, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so you give people credit. It's amazing to maintain one job for 5 years. Most people can't do that. To do it for 25 at that level, they've
Johnny on the spot,
ups and downs, but you could argue they've never been better. Like they've figured it out.
Smoking Al Koken.
Yeah. Smoking Al Koken. And
that was a weird game. That was a weird night for sports for me because I was watching the Caps. We kept flipping over to the Rangers to root for them and to see Laviolette and Torts on opposite. It's weird, because I'm like, you guys are in the same boat as me. Like when you think Torts, you think
the Rangers.
Team USA, and you think Rangers.
Mm-hmm. Well,
firecracker.
When I think of him, I think of success. I would give him more, not piss excellence.
Really? Because I think of unkept rage.
No, I'll tell you why. And behind that rage is genius. Each team he's been on, he has turned them around. He has taken over. Every team he's taken over has been garbage. And within a couple years, they have been
the most physical.
I'm going to think that Stanley Cup with the Lightning. The Lightning, up until then, hot garbage. Just horrible. Stanley Cup win.
Agreed.
The Rangers were terrible. Turned them around, right?
Went to
Columbus. Columbus was horrendous. Their whole existence turned them around. They, upset what's their face, the Red Wings. No, who was it? Lightning first round when the Lightning had the best season ever to that point. And now he's in Philadelphia. Philadelphia was unwatchable the last couple of years. Just looked like pansies. It was terrible out there. Like they were weak, they were soft.
Would you call refusing to leave the bench after being ejected genius? I'm just trying to dial this in.
Behind the rage is genius, right? He's purposeful in the
He's
stuff
everything
he does.
Nick wished he could be.
He's Torts in that game where he gets ejected and the ref's like, "You gotta go," and he just pulls out just straight Wolf of Wall Street. Just, "I'm not fucking leaving."
No, I would say genius. Yes, rally the troops.
I've seen Torts coach in person. I saw him play. I think when he was with the Canucks, or no, maybe it was the Canes. He coached for the Canes, right?
Not that I recall.
It was either the Hurricanes or the Canucks because I was
might
there
have been
when
on the Canucks a little bit.
Because I went to a Canucks Canes game years ago in college, and it was pretty cool to see just the veins popping in person.
Losing his mind.
Dude's a wild card, man.
It's great. But yeah, loved him. And last thing on Tuesday was the Lakers' 19-point fourth quarter comeback against the Bucks. Forced OT, then forced another OT, and were able to pull out the win. The Lakers fighting for their playoff lives too. Kind of inexplicably when you look at the talent on that team.
Yeah. West Coast game, so it's late here. I don't care. It's the NBA.
Yeah. But, hey, you can't argue with stats. I think Anthony Davis in that game played an insane number of minutes. He may have played the whole game.
It's better
something
with
like that. It was like...
Does he still have a unibrow?
53 minutes.
He shaves it.
No, he
clearly shaves the unibrow.
But, something insane, and they needed that. Right. Wednesday, I had nothing. Wednesday was a light day. Nothing really. We were anticipating the weekend. Everybody's working for it. But
Hump day.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that makes our way to Thursday, which is no longer hump day. That's Friday Eve, and that was MLB opening day, right? Get into the infuriating inability to watch because it's hard, not shown on TV because they've had so many issues with the local channels, and MLB Network isn't on.
I also have an axe to grind with opening day.
About the start times?
No, not the. I mean, it would have been nice to have some noon games. First off, I think the earliest game was a 3:00 game.
Yeah, it was the O's.
But no, so that's neither here nor there. Whatever. I don't get off work till 3 anyway. So I mean, whatever. My axe to grind. I guess it's not really with opening day. It's with the opening series. Why did so many teams play and then take a day off?
It's always
they do that every year.
It's
I hate it.
That's every opening.
It's trash.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Why they do it the opening day?
The season starts and we're already taking a vacation. What the hell? Yeah, everyone's in town. Let's go.
Well, also, I mean, I would have liked to have seen noon games, but you have to do something better. This is Sweet 16. Is Thursday. Who's watching baseball? Opening day should be it's a grand thing. It's the start of baseball. Everything's, it's rejuvenation, rebirth, all that crap.
Yep.
What are we doing?
Well, I think the issue was the way the sports calendar fell this year. A lot of things are kind of off a week for whatever reason. Maybe it's the leap year that we had. Maybe, I don't know what. If the NCAA tournament felt like it started a week later. It's normally St. Patrick's Day weekend.
It is, it did.
So I think normally they're not contending with that. But you're right. You should probably think that through and look that up and know about that.
How many of you knew there was the 2-game series in South Korea on the 20th?
I did, but it was
I did, and I absolutely thought it was ridiculous. I think that's... I'm all for international play. I love watching the London games for the NFL, getting football to come on that early in the morning. I love it when teams travel and they bring their regular season intensity to other countries to grow the sport, reach out to other communities, whatever. It's great. But had no idea. I literally walked into work and my buddy was sitting there watching it, and I said, "What are you watching?" And he goes, "The Soul Series," and I had to do a Google to figure out what was going on.
Yeah, the marketing for that was awful.
Crazy. And wasn't it two West Coast teams too? How early do they have to wake up to watch their teams play?
I think that it started, if you were in California, because it was Padres. Morning, right? Yeah, it was 3 a.m. It was Padres Dodgers. Because I think Kim on the Padres is Korean.
Yes, he is.
And I woke up to, it was the 6th inning at 6:30 in the morning.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, I forgot this game is already on.
Yeah. So imagine being a fan of that team. That's not their opening day, but it's their opening series. It's their first game of the year. Yeah. You know what I mean? I kind of feel bad for those fans. And Dodgers Padres, there has to be some sort of rivalry there. I'm not going to pretend to be in tune to all the California sport teams rivalries and who gets along with who and who hates who. But it's a nutty play that I think was half cocked.
Yes.
They've done it before though. They've opened in Japan before. There's precedent for it. The issue is like you said. It's nice to see. In terms of trying to grow your sport globally, to do this with a real game that counts. But the issue with baseball is it has to be done this way, right? A week before normal regular season starts, because of all the time difference and
everyone else is still in spring training. Do those teams get to report a week earlier than everyone else for spring training?
I think they actually did. I think
that's something that I would argue that needs to happen.
But yeah, it's just the nature of the beast. You can't do that in the middle of August. The way the NFL could have a random game, in October
on Christmas on a Wednesday.
Yeah. Yeah. But in the real opening day, we did see your O's with their new shiny acquisition, Corbin Burns, who
he looked fucking awesome. He had 11 strikeouts.
Yes,
11 strikeouts in the home opener. Oh my god! And the crowd was going nuts. They had the what did they call that guy? The splash zone guy who just sits there and hoses the 8 fans that are right in front of him.
The bird bath, is that what it is?
Yeah, bird bath. That's what they call it. Yeah. You won't see me sitting there. But no, they looked great. And on the opposite end of that, how typical Angels is it to have 3 runs and Mike Trout is the only one recording hits?
It was hilarious. I was literally watching I pulled up at work the game day. I'm like, oh, let me see this. Like, I see Burns immediately strikes out 2. And I'm like, oh, well, this makes sense. And then Trout, I think it was like an 0-2 count or something, then takes a hanging slider deep to left center. I was like, yep, that makes sense. And then they had, what did you say, 3 hits that entire game?
Did they even get 3 runs? They had 3 runs.
I know Corbin Burns only gave up one hit.
Yeah.
And it was the Trout home run. Mm-hmm. And it was like, God, this is the Angels.
Yeah.
I got something for the O's, that a prediction that I want to make for one Oriole that is not one of the big guys. It's not Gunnar. It's not Adley. Santander. I think he will lead the American League in RBIs.
Could see that.
He was a stud last year, and like anyone who watched the O's closely last year all said that if they're going to have another successful season, he needs to be the one to replicate.
I mean, he's sitting there at the 4-hole, and there's going to be guys on base left and right. He's got pop. Mm-hmm. He can hit sac flies. Like he's got 7 RBI already, I think.
Mm-hmm. The crazy thing about and that's a great take, by the way. I'm 100% on board. I think we keep track of that.
Yeah, right. Jot that one down.
I think the crazy thing about this opening series is that Camden Yards immediately gets exposed as a 2K build-a-park because Gunnar Henderson hit a double into an area in Camden Yards that would have been a home run at the other 29 parks. And then I think a couple guys on the Angels, to their credit, hit flyouts to deep left field that would have been home runs. And that's 29 of in that cutout where in that cutout that they put in before last season. So I think that they immediately get exposed. And you know what? I feel like I've been through the heartache enough that I'd sit there and I laugh. I laughed at it. I said, yeah, you take it. You take it. Welcome to Opaki, baby.
Oh, boy. Well, you know who that can't hold is your boy Aaron Judge. That hasn't seemed to hurt him at Camden at all.
No,
which brings me to the other thing that caught my eye on opening day for baseball was the Yankees-Astros series, which was probably the most intense series that was going on, right?
Brewers had a little bit of Brewers-Mets had a little intensity,
but that didn't start.
I think the intensity
in Yankees-Astros was before the first pitch ever happened.
Yeah.
Especially because betting odds had the Yankees getting blown out.
Yeah,
I think everyone was saying that Astros was safe money to bet on leading into that first game.
But what was amazing in that first game is, if you watch the end, it was crazy. Typical, shaky Yankees from what we've seen in the last couple of years. But Juan Soto, in right field, gunned out the game-tying run for the second out in the ninth inning, but made a terrific throw. And it was amazing because it reminds you that he's not just a slugger. This guy's an all-around great baseball player, hits for average, power, gets on base, and he plays pretty darn good defense. He's not like an elite defender like you would say for some of these other guys, but he's still a good defender. And reminded you that, I can do this too. And that was
didn't John
crazy.
Sterling call him out as a young prospect?
I'm
pretty sure someone within the Yankees organization when Soto made that throw, like someone who does announcing for the Yankees somewhere. It could have been the radio, it could have been Sterling, it could have been somebody, but I heard it. And they said, "Wow, check out the arm on the young prospect."
Well, you know how old he is?
He's 25, or is he 25?
He's 25.
He's young, but prospect?
I know, yeah, he's been
prospect.
No, he's established star. Yeah.
I just thought that was really funny. I was like, man, give the dude some credit. Like
his OPS, his career OPS is 950,
which is crazy.
To be not even 25 years old.
Yeah.
To play the amount of games he has.
That's kind of scary.
To be at that age and to have an OPS at 950 is insane.
Yeah. I mean he's setting the tone. Like he came in and it looked like he's so completely changed the entire mindset of that organization. Because the last couple of years the Yankees would have blown that game, and then they would have lost in extras on some stupid blunder or like some wild pitch, and it would have been like embarrassing. But it's amazing. Yeah, you overreact on opening day all the time, but it didn't feel like that was an overreaction watching that. It felt like this was
felt like classic Yankees. Classic, like in a good way. From like 25
years ago. Yeah.
Yes.
But not in the last 10 years. The classic Yankees last 10 years.
That was a very feel-good opening day for the Yanks.
Yes.
He also seems like the kind of guy that's going to love New York. Like he's a young
dude making millions. Of course he's gonna love.
No, I meant like be able to handle it.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Like the amount of guys they've shelled out money for that just don't pan out.
No.
I think he's gonna thrive.
Him and the 100%. Other one who it looks like he's meant to play in New York is Alex Verdugo. He is, I would argue, the modern day Paul O'Neill.
Like I'm so excited for
He's
Verdugo.
The guy who you hate playing against but love to have on your team. Because
he's
there's an
ultimate role player.
Edge to him. Yeah. Yep. And he doesn't care about anything but winning. So I think that was a very underrated, under the radar move was when they got him. But moving on, we have some more baseball later. But our first thing about the NCAA tournament, because Thursday was when the Sweet 16 started, and you saw a couple of upsets on Thursday. Right, actually, was Elite Eight?
Get blown to smithereens.
Yeah, Sweet 16. Yeah, so Clemson made their first Elite Eight since I believe 1980, and they upset Arizona, which was remarkable. I know a lot of people at Arizona. It was like almost a sleeper, right? Because everyone was going the UConn route and the Purdue route, and no one was talking about Arizona, who had been had some impressive wins this year, and Clemson. Steady Eddie just kept right on with them and rolled through them, which is pretty amazing. They, created a lead and sustained that lead the whole game, and it was kind of really impressive to watch them take apart Arizona. And then later that night,
you had an issue with that game?
Yes, I did.
You did?
I did. Why? Because in the dying minute of the game, not just because it blew my bracket up, but in the dying minute of that game, it's Clemson's up 75-71. Or no, they're up 75-70. Arizona comes down, gets an easy layup, right, to go down by 3. And Clemson inbounds the ball. So they into their credit, they inbound the ball quick and get through the press into 2 beautiful passes. But everyone on Arizona is just standing around looking. Like, this is foul. We're in foul to stop the clock territory, and nobody had the wherewithal to foul to stop the clock. Instead, what happens is Clemson breaks the press, goes down, gets an easy layup, and 1. They foul on the layup, and Clemson at that point just puts the game out of reach. It's just one of the 2 things about March Madness, and especially this year, that is driving me nuts is I blame that on a coaching differential. Like, how does the coach and the players not be screaming to foul? Like you're a number 2 seed who again has great wins coming down the stretch, and it gets down to 18 seconds and you don't know the situation. Like I think that's ridiculous.
I think it's less knowing situation, more of execution, and more also of a team like that not being in positions like that this year. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, they've had some close losses, but that comes from experience of knowing, oh shit, I get this. If this happens, this is what's got to happen as a result of it. And that's why you hear a lot of coaches talk about good losses sometimes. Like, being in those tough games, having to work through it, having to lose, because if you learn from that loss, you've now learned a lesson. The loss means nothing because you moved on from it and you're better for it. And there's a lot of teams, that have that mindset. Not saying that Arizona didn't, right? But I'm saying that they may not have found themselves that often in that scenario.
It was tough. It was a tough watch.
And then after that, if you were able to stay up for it, because for whatever reason these games are on it.
Yeah, that was a joke.
The UNC game?
The UNC
right?
game where they...
started at 10:15.
That was another... Yeah, that was tough. I stayed up to watch it, and I hated it the next day at work.
Yeah. It's just tough to watch that. And UNC kind of, I won't say blew a lead, but, they were up for the most part the entire game, and you would say shouldn't have lost. But Alabama found a way. Alabama, with the impeccably dressed Nate Oates as their coach. We've seen his Blazers there, all-timers on the sidelines. But stay true to who they are. Give them credit.
They chuck.
They don't waver. And they're unapologetic about it.
Speaking of chucking, that's what lost UNC the game.
Because they're not built to do that. Alabama
they're up by one, and they go into their stall offense where they're just passing around the perimeter. Their power forward gets the pass outside the arc at the top of the key, and his defender is just backing off him, playing probably down by the foul line, and he just goes okay, and chucks it up, and in perfect harmony, me and the two announcers all go, why? Misses the shot. Alabama comes down to take the lead in the dying seconds of the game.
Alabama made that into their game, and they did that with Clemson as well. Mm-hmm. They made it into their pace, and they chuck, but they have the guys built to do it.
They looked so good. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, y'all.
Basketball school.
Yeah, they are now. Bonus from Thursday. Because we'll cover the Tide more in a second here. But bonus from Thursday.
Roll Tide.
The Kansas City Chiefs signed former Welsh rugby star Lewis Rees-Zammit to a contract using international. But they have international bonus pool money for baseball. It's kind of what they have in NFL this year. They have a roster spot new this year that is designated just for an international player that you cannot use for anyone else. It's just for them, and that they can move up and down from the practice squad to the active rosters. They signed this dude. They're going to take a look at him initially with kick returns, like we talked about with those new kickoff rules. If you really think about it, in rugby, you kind of have two lines of people stretching across the whole field. You got to find a way to break through that line, and that's in a lot of ways ostensibly what you're trying to do here with the new kickoff rule. So who better to be able to find a way to break through a line than a guy who's been doing it his whole life, and a guy who has got some wheels. I think in his kind of international combine ran a 4.46 or 4.43 40. And when you watch some of his highlights, he is going past guys. They look like they're walking. That's how fast he's going. And he's about 6'3", I think 215 is what I saw. So it's a pretty sizable, strong dude. And
that's
leave the Andy Reid to be the brilliant one.
I know.
Andy
Look at
Reid
it this way. It's not missing a beat.
No. We talked about with the kickoff rules. With Belichick not coaching, Vrabel not coaching. Andy Reid is definitely the evil mastermind left in the NFL. Though he's clearly already working something out with new kickoff rules, right? Yep. By bringing this powerhouse unit onto his squad and to fill a void for a dude that just got arrested.
Yeah, well, they said they're going to look at him first at running back in terms of offensive position, and then at receiver.
He seems positionless, right? He seems like a guy end arounds, it's pitches. I don't know how much he can catch.
That's the thing. In rugby, your hands really aren't something. It's all about angles, speed, strength, agility. Less about being able to catch something, right? So you look at that and you say, can he be a receiver? But he's got the size. So you're right. Maybe
I
he's
also
like an
want to
H-back
see
type of.
Yeah, what's
move him around.
A guy that size playing rugby? Let's see what he does on some screens where he's the lead blocker.
Mm-hmm. Where there's people that can like adequately get the dudes in front of him out of the way.
Like if he's the lead blocker coming out on like a DB, like I don't know, just a little jet screen or a bubble or whatever. He's the lead blocker. I mean, that could be fun.
I will say, though, to play devil's advocate with that, you aren't really allowed to block in rugby. So a lot of guys who try to make that transition don't understand like what you can and can't do, and they get a lot of penalties because they're they
put
can.
Someone in front of him physical that can ability block for to do
him. It, but yeah, exactly. It's a little different, but I do think it, like you said, brilliant Andy Reid under the radar move, which takes us to the official weekend Friday. First thing on Friday, had to go with it. Siena College hired former Syracuse great Jerry McNamara, who's still far and away the school's all-time leader in three-point makes. Hired him as head coach. McNamara's first head coaching job. He had been at Syracuse as an assistant for a while on Boeheim in his last years, and then the last couple over there. But thought that was noteworthy. Siena launching, if you're not familiar with them, Loudonville, New York, up by Albany. In the MAC, the MAAC, not the MACtion conference that you all probably think of, but in the MAC, who they play teams like Iona, who is and St. Peter's has been in the MAC. That might be who some people recognize. Monmouth, another one that stands out, but Siena's been a springboard for a lot of coaches. Fran McCaffrey at Iowa was a Siena coach. Paul Hewitt, who was at George Mason and Georgia Tech, Siena coach. There's a long list of guys who, their first head coaching job was at Siena and, turned them around or maybe made an NCAA tournament, and that launched their career. So I expect good things from McNamara. I think it's a brilliant hire from them, especially coming from Syracuse. The name where he's going to be recruiting from is all similar. It's a great move for them. So I thought that was cool. The Saints. Yeah. Green and gold.
To the Saints.
We ain't got knowledge for it. Damn good college.
To Mike Vesey. That's great. Congrats.
And more important from Friday was NC State kept their roll going, right? And Duke took out Houston. So NC State took out Marquette. There's another really solid victory on their part. They look fantastic again. And Duke. Unfortunately for Houston, Jamal Shed with that tough injury early in the game kind of changed the whole complexion of that game. I mean, that was a rough game to watch.
That's a lot of points left on the board, man.
Their offense
runs through him.
He is the maestro in that offense, and he's such a great leader. And oh my gosh, on-ball defense, everything. That guy was everything for Houston. And I was watching that start of the game. I'm thinking, their defense is so damn relentless. It was like 2000 Ravens. I mean, they are after you every step of the way. They don't let you.
Are you talking
breathe.
like the team or like a flock of birds?
I'm talking the team with Ray Lewis.
I was thinking about 2000.
2000 just Ravens just coming after you.
So good. It was 2000 birds just swooping.
No, I'm talking Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and Boulware and Syracuse. No, they were relentless, and then Shed goes out, and you just don't have enough firepower to stay with Duke, and it's just a shame.
But I also don't want the narrative of that game, and it's obviously gonna probably for the most part be that I don't want the narrative of that game to be, if Shed was healthy, but I think the guys, DJ Burns took care of business, dude. That guy's a powerhouse. I could watch
Different
that guy.
Game.
Oh, it is my bad.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Different game.
Sorry. Scratch that.
Houston, if Houston had Shed, they would that game.
Yeah, there you go.
They beat Duke.
But so that set up Duke versus NC State for the Final Four. But it also what it did was it made it so of the Elite Eight, 3 teams from the ACC, which for the whole year was such a maligned conference.
Awful conference.
What a terrible conference. How'd they get this many teams in the tournament? And you could argue they should have had 4 of the 8 that UNC shouldn't have lost to Bama, right? So I think it just goes to show that that's still, a great conference, arguably one of the toughest to get through that year. And they have if you take away UVA, they have consistent success in the postseason. I mean, the last several years, there's always a team in the Final Four, and it's always a different team, too. I mean, Miami last year made a run to it, right? You got NC State this year, as we'll get to in a second, with their run when they, playing against Duke. They want to paint it as it's only just Duke and UNC, and everyone else is garbage. And it's like, no, I mean, this watching Clemson play, you see, this is a team that finished 6th in that league, go on this run. That none of these other teams going on these runs finish 6th in their league.
I have a theory about the ACC and why they have success. They play great defense without fouling. They still have bigs that are physical enough to match with you and get on the boards, get on the glass. Their offenses don't beat themselves. They're not turning the ball over, not doing stupid things. They run their sets. They play at a slower pace and get teams to play at their pace. They, across the ACC, basically, they do the little things correctly.
Mm-hmm. And they have great coaches.
And they have great coaches. And the Big 12, I always get Big 12 bias because West Virginia is in the Big 12, so I watch a lot of games. And they're always consistently they get 8 or 9 teams in, and they had zero in the Final Four.
Mm-hmm. Did they have any in the Elite Eight?
I don't know if they had any in the Elite Eight. I don't think so.
Sweet 16.
Sweet 16. Baylor? Iowa State and Houston.
And no, Baylor lost. Yeah.
Yeah, because they hammer each other consistently throughout their season. They beat each other up, but they're ridiculously physical. And the refs get used to that physicality because it's Big 12 refs. They get used to it. Then all of a sudden you get into the tournament, you're not playing with Big 12 refs. The refs are from everywhere else. And they see these guys hammering people like, oh, well, that's a foul. Houston had 4 guys foul out in their win against A&M.
Yes.
I don't know how they won it.
Wild.
They had 4 guys.
That game was so crazy to watch.
Yeah, and then the Mountain West is consistently overrated because the net is a scam.
And they also play physical.
Yes.
That hurts. I mean, the net is a cyclical scam that we've talked about.
Yeah. Everyone can hate the ACC, hate on them all you want, do whatever. They play this style, and it works in March.
Yes. Do any of the networks that cover March Madness, do any of them show like a conference record? Like, I think that would be a cool graphic to see. Is like
there's a bunch.
They do sometimes.
You break down wins and losses by the divisions.
Yeah. There's a guy I follow.
I think that'd be so cool.
There's a guy I follow on Twitter, JBR Bracketology or something, who has like a whole I don't know who he is or what he does, but he's got a whole spreadsheet and analytics based on who the best teams are. Like over the last 5 years, he's like the ACC is miles ahead of every other conference.
And that's not hard to believe.
Yeah. It is if you listen to the pundits on CBS.
Yeah. No, I mean I think
there goes that deal.
I think UVA kills them every year. That's where it comes from. Is you look at this conference, you go, this is a team that finishes top 3 in the conference every year. I mean, they won 23 games this year, right? That's more than so many teams into the tournament. And then you watch that product that we saw a couple weeks ago. You watch some of these other, I mean, they had 6 or 7 20-plus point losses this year. And then you go through the history of like the embarrassing things that have happened to them, and it puts this blemish. I think Seth Greenberg said it after the Colorado State loss this year. It was like, this is embarrassing for the ACC. And I think that's where we get it. They're killing because then you extrapolate back from them and go, well, how good can Clemson be if they lost to this team? Or how good could Pitt be if their best win is a away win at UVA? Like, how good can these teams be if that's the team above them? Which isn't a fair way to look at it because, that's how you should look at it then from the Mountain West, because San Diego State's the only team from that conference who's had any success in the tournament the last 4 years since they've started putting all these Mountain West teams. Consistent success. But none of their other teams have had it. So you rate these other teams higher because they'll beat San Diego State in the regular season, and San Diego State will do well in the postseason. But then you punish all these ACC schools because of UVA's ineptitude in the postseason. So
I think what the most recent ACC national title though is UVA.
It is. They haven't won a tournament game outside of that since is it 2017? I think might be the last time they won a tournament game besides that.
Yes.
And again, that hurts your conference. But no, ACC is strong, always will be strong, always has been strong. This stuff is just a bunch of BS. I don't get it. It's lazy is what it is, in my opinion. It's lazy journalism. It's lazy analysis. But that brings us moving on to Saturday. Right? My first thing on Saturday, bringing us back to the diamond, was the Mets. Right? As we know, the Mets, here's the first pitch, and the season is over, and that was no more true than what we saw this weekend. My God, yes, Rhys Hoskins used to be on the Phillies, right, and someone you hated playing against, but he's on the freaking Brewers now, right, and you're going to pick this fight with him over his hard slide, which I get being upset for, but come on, man, McNeil, who do you think you are? And then that whole thing happens with it, and then Hoskins the next day, the Mets look like a bunch of goons who clearly this guy was trying to drill him in the back of the head. Even Ron Darling said, he clearly threw at him. And it's like, why are you going to it's the freaking Brewers, man. Right? You guys were horrible last year, the Mets. You have the highest payroll in baseball, and now you just look like a bunch of idiots. And because the best part was Hoskins then torches them. Just
you gotta give us a shot!
Well, I mean, the slide is perfectly legal.
It's legal.
It's legal. He stays on the bag.
But
he's trying to break up the double play. He stays on the bag. He doesn't. If he did something illegal and came after off the bag, really went out. Yeah, he just slid, and McNeil loses the ball in the transfer and then yells in his face, and then Hoskins comes back and hits the bomb.
Yeah, because McNeil's argument was this isn't playing the game the right way because he should know that this is not going to be a double play ball and this and this. And as people who've been on the bases, you don't know that shit.
No, you do.
The runner's behind you. You're running as fast as you can. Well, he's supposed to make a split-second decision. Would you like him to go in standing up and just run right through you? Would you rather that happen? No.
I would like that to happen.
It typifies the Mets' mindset these last couple years of almost like entitlement. Like, we spent all this money, so we should be better than you.
Yes.
And it was so... I'm not an anti-Met person, and you see my Yankees jersey, but I
don't wearing the Yankees jersey.
I don't root against the Mets though. I don't care what they do. When they were in the World Series against the Royals, I was rooting for them back with David Wright and Syndergaard and Harvey and all them. I was rooting for them. I don't hate the Mets, but watching that made me want to really hate the Mets. I was like, God, and the throwing at him was absolutely ridiculous. He got suspended 3 games, deserved it. I think the Mets manager got suspended 1 game because that is kind of that's the rule. If you ordered it or not, that's just the rule. You get suspended for it. And then to see, like you said, Hoskins just turn around and suck on that one.
That was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Suck on that one. I love it.
I'd go the next one. Gridiron. We were talking about this earlier. I love this story. The UFL, United Football League, kicked off this weekend.
Go DC Defenders.
And we talked about how why is baseball starting during the NCAA tournament? You can make the same case for the UFL. Why are you starting during all this such a crowded sports weekend? But UFL, the Michigan Panthers were playing the St. Louis Battlehawks. And down to the wire, there's about 8 seconds left in the game. The Panthers are down, I think, 1 or 2. And they tried out their kicker for a 64-yard attempt. Jake Bates is his name. Jake Bates had not attempted a field goal since high school. He went to college at some small school, was a kickoff specialist, then transferred to another school to play soccer, then transferred to a third school, I think it was Arkansas, to be a kickoff specialist. He had not attempted a field goal in college. They trot this dude out here for a 64-yard attempt, and the Battlehawks go and ice him. Smart move. You got to say you ice the guy 64 yards, right? But he gets his kickoff and drills it, right? And so you go, oh shit, this guy's got a chance, but there's no way this dude, he plays for the Michigan Panthers, ain't no way this dude is converting his second time. Well, lines right back up and fucking pipes it again. 64 yards like he was kicking a 30-yard field goal. It was pretty amazing. Again, his first field goal attempt since he was in freaking high school. I thought that was a remarkable story.
How many more times does he have to do that before he starts getting attention from the mothership?
What do you mean, the NFL?
Yeah.
I don't think he has to do it any more times. That's on film now. They always talk about put stuff on film. That's on film. in a pressure situation, dying seconds of the game, getting iced too is even more impressive. Yeah, you could say, well, he's not in a packed stadium. I don't give a shit. You're playing against legit pros. Like the guys who are out there are legit.
Because the teams that sign him aren't going to have packed stadiums. The teams that are going to have their that are going to sour on the kickers they have signed aren't going to have packed stadiums.
Like the Bears who screwed over Robbie Gould and now have had 15 to 20 different kickers probably since then.
Who the head coach is of the St. Louis Battlehawks? Anthony Becht, Mountaineer, and Jets. And you know who his kid is? Rocco Becht, the QB for Iowa State, who was a true freshman that had a great true freshman year. He's gonna be legit. Yeah.
And the last thing on Saturday, before we move on to Sunday, which was packed day, culminated the great sports week we had. But last thing was UConn and Alabama made it to the Final Four in the men's tournament. UConn, as we all know, they're trying to repeat. They've been so dominant. But this was Alabama's first ever Final Four in school history, which was very cool. They edged out Clemson. That was a pretty good game. Which can't be said for the UConn game because that was like insane. I think a 30-0 run. Like I was, going to put the kid to bed, and saying goodnight to him. And right before I went to put him to bed, it was, I think, 23-21 UConn. I was like, oh, okay, cool, good game. Illinois was a sleeper team for me. Thought they were arguably the best team in the Big Ten this year. I go to do all his bedtime stuff, and I come out, and it's like 56-25, and I was like, what the hell happened? What did I miss? I was gone for like 10 minutes. 30-0 run.
Having UConn as like my bracket champion, it's been comfortable. But like it's also like it leaves a void because like they get up by so much and they're so dominant that like when they're up by 30, like I lose interest. I find myself like scrolling on my phone or flipping to the other games. Like it's just like having insurance pretty much. Like I don't need to, they're gonna get in there, do a little TCB, taking care of business, and we're on to the next round. Like they're just an app, like saying dominant or calling them a powerhouse, or I know Stevie likes to use buzzsaw. Like it does not do them
as opposed to bonesaw.
No, bonesaw, brother. Ready? These guys are nuts.
No, UConn last year, I would say it was a buzzsaw because we didn't know how great they were. We knew this team was really good. But how good were they? And then they buzzsaw their way through. Baylor in 21, that was a buzzsaw. This team is something different. And don't take for granted that they're, like, this basketball is the most beautiful basketball I think I've ever seen. Like, in the college game, it is so incredible what they are able to do. They can run in transition. They can play their sets and slow it down. They can play a two-man game with Klingon and Newton or Klingon and Spencer. Spencer, by the way, runs that offense so beautifully. They can get on the glass. They can play defense without fouling. Klingon defensively, I think, is the best defender in the country right now. They do every little thing so well. There's no egos on that team. I think they score on an assist almost every time. It's incredible.
I think one of the big things that like sets them apart, and you said this in our group chat, but one of the things that sets them apart from all the other teams, aside from the score differential, is that this is a team that hasn't panicked once, and they're not chuckers.
Yes.
Like how many times have we seen good teams get eliminated because they panic? They're down by 4 with 3 minutes left, and so they just start chucking threes. So many teams. I mean, this year alone. The chucking has single-handedly eliminated teams that are not three-point shooting teams getting eliminated because they try. Whereas, like, UConn, like, they stick to their game, they force their opponents to play their game, and they're just executing non-stop.
Look at what – I think they shot terribly in that first half from 3. They changed what they wanted to do. They instead, what they did was they played 5 out.
Pivot.
And they did Klingon and Spencer – pivot. And they put Klingon and Spencer in the high pick and roll situation. The shooters are still respected enough where you can't. People, for some reason, Illinois didn't want to leave them at all and make them earn the threes. But literally Klingon and Spencer, Klingon and Newton, and they played a 2-man game, and you couldn't stop it. No one could hedge. No one could. I mean, it was ridiculous. They can do everything well,
and they get up by so much that like, and you'll see this like in the like later stages of the halves where like they're already up by so much that like if a team drives and tries to draw a foul, they just get out of the way.
Yeah,
like come on, come take the 2. We're not going to touch you. It's fine. Good job getting in here, little guy. And then they'll go down and answer real quick. Like
each coach usually they have their style. Alabama plays super fast. UVA plays really deliberate. They play very slow. Teams kind of pick and choose which style they want. Houston is defense. They just run after you. What UConn does is their style is basketball.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do. And they do it better than anyone. Like
they're switching up styles and looks every time they're coming down the court.
Which, like, for a college team to be able to do that is incredible. Dan Hurley is remarkable. He's the best coach.
Jackie Moon would be really proud, I gotta say. Last note on UConn, right? We talked about, they're going for their repeat, the dominance you've seen. Last year, they set the record for largest average margin of victory in an NCAA tournament title run, right? So they beat the teams by the largest average margin that anyone's ever won. And they're on pace this year to, I think, break what their record was last year. That's how good they've been, how consistent they've been at the hardest times to win. So
with a completely different roster. Remarkable. They lost 5 out of their top 8 scores.
Yeah, it's just
he did it with a completely different roster.
There's still some consistent, but you're right. I mean, Cam Spencer, he wasn't there last year. But you got to have some consistency.
They kept Klingen, right?
Klingen and Caravan still there. But yeah, you're right. It's pretty amazing. Which brings us to Sunday. We round out our Final Four. We have Purdue and 2-time Wooden Award winner Zach Edey, the first one to win it back-to-back since Ralph Sampson did it 3 times. Ralph Sampson from?
UVA.
But Zach Edey, 40 points in that game, over half of his team's points. Insane, right? He tied the Admiral, David Robinson's NCAA tournament record of 5 straight games in the tournament with a double-double, right? It's him and Robinson alone, right? And he was on the list before with like Larry Bird and Blake Griffin, I think, was on there. There's a couple other people. So that's remarkable what he's done. And anyone who wants to sit there and says,
he's just tall.
Just because he's just tall is an idiot. And we talked about the Matt Painter thing.
I wouldn't want to associate with anyone that says that.
Yeah. He's incredible. So that was really nice to see that they get back there on their road to redemption. The last team to lose to a 16 went on to win it all, as we know.
How crazy with UVA,
but they're on their way, and I think that'd be pretty amazing if they did it again.
If they are able to do this year to beat UConn, like that's the difference. Like if UVA,
it'll shut everyone up.
If UVA, I think, went through Duke that year, they won it because Duke had Zion, and they were the only.
Actually, they lost to Duke twice that year.
They did, and the other loss they had was Florida State
in the ACC championship.
But
game.
Purdue, to do that, they have to get through UConn, and that's tough.
You're still now discounting Alabama, who we just praised for the way they play, and Nate Oates is crazy.
Correct. This is all if they get there, you gotta win these games.
Yeah. Alabama's a team like Alabama, explosive like how they are, who is consistently going to stick to their guns. It has the mindset of, why not us? They can pull off an upset. But you're right. It seemingly looks like it might be Purdue, UConn, especially because Purdue in Final Four, they're going to play NC State. NC State went on to upset Duke in that Elite Eight game in that region. Pretty remarkable considering the fact that part of their run where they've won almost 10 straight games, something insane. One of those games was against Duke in the NCAA tournament, or the ACC tournament, which they had to have to get to this point. And they have more wins now this year than Duke does, which is crazy to think about.
They had 14 losses in the regular season.
They've played so many games, but yeah, your boy DJ Burns is awesome, fun to watch. That team's been fun to watch. DJ Horn, O'Connell. What's that kid off the bench? Middlebrooks.
Middlebrooks the goon, man. Great.
But it's NC State's first Final Four since 1983, which were the Jim Valvano cardiac pack, kids down there. So it's pretty amazing. So NC State will take on Purdue UConn take on Alabama. That's our Final Four. That's set for next weekend, so that'll be big for our show next week. But I thought that was pretty amazing because just another note from the hard court, the NC State women also made it to the Final Four on Sunday.
Playing on a ridiculous
men and women, men and women get there. It's pretty amazing.
How does that happen? The 3-point line is short by 9 inches.
How does it happen that you don't see it for the other games that happened at that site?
That's the part that's just mind-boggling, is that you have a 3-point line that's 9 inches short, and I saw a graphic of the stats for the teams that were shooting on that, and it's insane, like how many shots they're taking and how many misses they have. Like, nobody's piping up. Like, I really hope that this doesn't come out that like somebody said something or multiple people said something and they were like, you're wrong, don't blame us, like don't hate the player, hate the game, you know what I mean? Like there has to be some sort of accountability here.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, as someone who has coached on some backfields in the public school system and seen how the people they hire, whose job it is to line a field, like who put first base in the middle of the foul line, so half of the base is in foul territory because they don't know what they're doing. This type of thing doesn't shock me. It's about giving a shit.
NCAA
tournament. Some people don't give a shit though. It's about who you hired to give a shit. And you're right. It's the NCAA tournament. You'd think you'd have fail safes and you'd make sure these people give a shit and are competent. But
the fucking clips on ESPN today of like guys out there with the measuring tape.
Yeah, saw that.
Had me rolling. Oh my god! I was.
No, it's just an optical illusion.
I was walking past the TV and like did a double take and went, wait, what's going on here? And then I saw the headline and I just went, no fucking shot. This dude's out here with a measuring tape.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, also South Carolina women Gamecocks, coached by Dawn Staley from
UVA.
They stayed undefeated, looking to be an undefeated champion. They've been true dominant force this year.
They've been talked about
enough.
Yeah, they've been a wagon. It's because they don't have the star player.
Yeah, which you buy that. So, but that's perfect for them if they're trying to win. That's how you do it.
They're incredible.
You stay under the radar. They've been tested, but they made it to the Final Four as well. Frozen Four, which, as we know, is the college hockey Final Four. Frozen Four was set this weekend. The top 3 overall seeds advanced. So you have BU, Boston University, will take on Denver. Those are the 2-3 seeds. And then Boston College was the 1 seed. They're going to take on Michigan. Michigan, not the 1 seed. I think they were the 3 seed in their region. But they took out Michigan State, their rival, in a very, very chippy game. That was, had some chirping and face washing, all that stuff going on. Good. Took them out to win their region, and they'll take on Boston College. So you got BU, Denver, BC, Michigan. That was kind of cool.
Boston College.
Golf-wise, our first golf mention, we got Scotty Scheffler was going for his 3rd straight PGA Tour victory. No one had done that since Dustin Johnson in 2017, but Dustin Johnson, one of his victories was at the match play, WGC Match Play Championship, so it wasn't stroke play. So Scheffler's trying to be the first person to do 3 straight stroke play wins since Rory did it like 10 years ago. But he fell short, had a birdie putt on 18. Stefan Jaeger or Sebastian Jaeger? I think it was Stefan Jaeger. But Jaeger from Germany wound up collecting his first ever PGA Tour victory in his 135th start. He's been a pretty consistently good player on the European Tour. If you didn't know who he is, he will go to Augusta now, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. I fucking love that.
That if you win before then, you get in the field. Yeah, I love that you win. You got Augusta has a lot of they have a matrix of like 20 different things that you can, if you match one of those things, you qualify. Yeah, and so you can go to probably right now you can go find the website and you'll have the guys.
I think any win qualifies you for the majors for the next 2 years, or is it 4 years?
It's not every major though. It's weird because
I thought a win on tour qualified you for every major for the next 4 years.
No, because the Masters doesn't do that. So it's like so if you win in that year after the Masters. Like, so if you win in May of this year, you're going to qualify for the Masters next year. But that win isn't qualifying you for the Masters for the next, 3 years. But yes, you can see the different things, and they list each guy and they show how many of the things they meet. So some of these guys are on there, and they've got 6 different things, right? Your Scotty Scheffler probably has 12 of the 20 things on there, but Mr. Jaeger's probably going to have one, and he had a victory. So pretty cool, awesome. Good for him. But on the women's side, Nelly Korda, from one of the great sports families out there.
Love it.
I don't know if you know that. Obviously, her sister's a great golfer, but her brother Sebastian is top 30 in the world tennis player. Their dad actually has a singles tennis major. He won in early 90s, won a major, which is pretty amazing. But Nelly Korda won her 3rd straight LPGA event. So matched the feat Scheffler was shooting for, which is pretty amazing.
Nelly Korda is awesome. I think of obviously in a space where women's sports isn't particularly televised, especially golf. I think every one of the big female golfers who get named, especially Lexi Thompson, Nelly Korda should be the first 2 that come to mind. Watching them play, it's electric, and I hope Nelly does what Lexi did last year, where she plays an event like a co-ed event. I think that would be so cool to see. I mean,
you're right about that. They don't promote them, right? We think of Lexi Thompson, but really Lexi last year didn't play that well. She got into the Solheim Cup, which is the female version of the Ryder Cup. Mm-hmm. She was a captain's pick for that. She had a similar thing with Justin Thomas. Really shouldn't have made it, but they wanted a veteran leader, and they picked her, and she had a remarkable. She I think won or halved her individual thing on the last day to force a tie. So Europe maintained the cup because they won it the last time, but they didn't win it, which she was quick to point out that you didn't beat us. So that was kind of cool. But Rose Zhang really should get talked more about. Rose, phenomenal golfer. She won her first event ever on tour. She's fantastic. Rose Zhang, Lilia Vu is also a great golfer to look out for. But there's a.
I'm firmly in the Alexa Pinot camp. The young, 19, 20-year-old who's sponsored by the Patriots.
Yes, I saw that.
Shout out Alexa Pinot, friend of the pod. Yes, dude. She goes to games and sits in. I think I saw a picture of her in Bobby Kraft's box.
I think
all of her golf stuff has the Patriots logo on there. I mean, she's probably right up there with you look at Cameron Young, who's sponsored by MLB because his family lives on the course where Silver is a member there.
Adam Silver's NBA.
Yeah, Manfred.
Manfred. Sorry, Manfred. My bad. But then you also have I can't remember. There's one golfer who's sponsored by the Anaheim Ducks.
Yes,
who wears the Anaheim Ducks logo.
Knapp. That's Jake Knapp, who a few years ago was a bouncer. That's what his job was. He was a bouncer at a nightclub, and he won a.
I remember
we
had that talk. I think she's in a camp like that where she has some sort of familial connection to the Patriots and Robert Kraft. Yeah. She's definitely a New England girl, but she had a pretty big win last year. I'm firmly in her camp. If there's a female golfer I'm watching that isn't Lexi Thompson or Nelly, I'm watching Alexa Pinot.
Yeah. I love the golf talk. The Solheim Cup, by the way, this year happening up kind of in Northern Virginia off Route 29 in Gainesville. Might be something I want to go to. I'll move us on though back to baseball. We talked about the Yankees earlier. Juan Soto's electric play on opening day, but on Sunday they completed a 4-game sweep of the Astros on the road to start the year. Came back in I think 3 of those 4 games, which was something they didn't do last year. They folded like lawn chairs, and when they had leads, they lost them. Part of that's Clay Holmes he's a wild card. And that in that last game, the 4th game kind of showed that, but they were able to get out of that. First season opening sweep to start a year for the Yankees since 2003.
It's huge.
Huge, and they just look like a different team. Another team who started off 4-0, Pittsburgh Pirates, who they have a lot of pieces, a lot of great pieces, a lot of young talent, some veteran leadership. They started off really hot last year and folded. But
there's a guy for the Pirates Key Brian Hayes, who I feel like they just keep waiting and waiting and waiting for this. I think this is year 3 for him. He has to be good.
3 or 4, I think. Maybe 4. Yeah. Well, he's an elite level defender. If you look at the metrics,
he's phenomenal defensively.
But you're right. They're looking more for him to carry the torch. And Brian Reynolds to be a 1-2 punch to consistently win games for you. Like, hey, everyone's off, but Key Brian is going to take over and pop a couple. But you're right. But the Pirates, they came back on Sunday, forced extras, beat Miami in extras. It's their first 4-0 road start since 1903, which is insane. I mean, think about the history of the Pirates in our lifetime. They've been bad, but back then they were really good.
Barry Bonds.
Well, in 1903.
I'm sorry.
Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds.
No, but
I mean, he's immortal with all the steroids he's taken.
First half of the century, yeah. His head looks like a prize-winning squash. But yeah, that was that was nice to see the Buccos get that. The Reds staying on the diamond. They were playing our Nats that we were talking about earlier, but the Reds were down 5-3 in the 9th inning, 2 outs, man on base, and Will Benson comes up, jacks a game-tying home run. All right, it's crazy, amazing. That crowd's going nuts. Next batter, young Christian Encarnacion Strand, big right-handed slugger. First pitch, out the other way to left field for the game winner walk off. So back-to-back home runs to walk it off is pretty fun to see. Back to basketball, NBA. The Nuggets on Sunday clinched their 6th straight playoff appearance. The Nuggets are 15-0 at home when Jokic has a triple-double. So there's a lot to unpack with that stat. I mean, first up, that's saying that's how many times he's getting a triple-double, which is remarkable. We hear it so often. How often
does someone with a triple-double lose?
It happens.
More often than you think.
Yeah. Well, it also, there's been so many people rack up triple-doubles lately that we've kind of become desensitized to it. Like, we think, a triple-double should be a big deal, but like the boy was saying right there, a lot of people who do it lose because to rack up those stats, you almost have to go out of your way sometimes, play outside of your system to get those things. But that's such a remarkable stat that the Nuggets are 15-0, haven't even lost. It's not like they go 13-2, which would be great. 15-0 because he is consistently making the correct play, the right play to set up the victories and the wins. I think I was telling you guys before, there's a statistic the NBA keeps track of now called win shares. Basically, how many wins are you worth as a person, as a player, right?
That's crazy.
And Jokic leads the league. It's something crazy, almost 20 wins. I think it's a 15, 16, 17 wins he's worth, just him being on the court,
because
how well he's played.
I think for his role, a lot of people would assume that his triple-doubles are coming from points, rebounds, and maybe blocks. Because he's so big and a dominant force, but I'd imagine instead of blocks, it's probably a lot of assists.
Yeah, it's all his assist numbers are crazy. He's one of the top players in the league in terms of assists and averages. He's almost averaging a triple-double this year.
It's crazy just because he looks so goofy.
He's ruthlessly efficient, and that's what makes him crazy.
Everything about him.
Yes.
His game and his looks.
Yes.
Yeah, did you see he was late for his press conference? Because he was watching the Duke NC State game and he was like, "This guy burns." He's like, "I love this guy. He's amazing."
DJ motherfucker.
He's like, he's lefty. I wish I was lefty.
Now,
his shot's ugly enough.
Jokic had a triple-double earlier this year where he didn't miss a shot. He literally was perfect. Made all free throws and all shots from the field with a triple-double. Yeah. And it's that efficiency is where you get those win shares. I mean, that's why you're going 15-0. You're not getting a triple-double because you went, 12 of 42 from the field, right? He's going 10 of 10 from the field.
It's a good take, and that's a super impressive stat. But once again, regular season NBA does not move the needle for me.
No.
I'm not the stat is amazing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to downplay that by even a little bit because 15-0 triple double for that guy is incredible, and the guy can do it all. Hand up accountability, he can do it all. But it's regular season NBA.
Well, yeah, we've talked about this at work a lot. You'll see a team go down by 20, and then they will pretty much quit. So yeah, you know what, it's not really worth it. We'll get them next time. It's not worth the fight or the effort, which makes, you know, the 30-point comeback from the Hawks we talked about earlier even more impressive. That those kids are going to stick it out and going to, you know, give a shit, right? And you see that a lot in the NBA. The opposite of, like, you know, 20 points, whatever. You know, it's a minute left. We're down by 6, whatever. You know, the lack of fight, and you kind of see that in the rest thing, right? The load management, and how they had to put in a rule now that you have to play at least 65 games to win the MVP. Like, you can't play less than that. And I was looking back, and Giannis, one of his MVP years, played less than 65 games. So that year he won MVP. If it were now, he wouldn't have won it, right? And it kind of goes back to, like you're saying, the regular season. They don't really, I don't say they don't take it seriously. Obviously,
that rule sucks
they
for people
do,
that
but
get hurt though, like the Joel Embiid's.
Yeah, he was gonna. I mean, he won't win it this year because he's been hurt for too long anyway.
Yeah,
but if he had come back sooner
before his injury, he was in the conversation.
He was front runner. He was
everyone was saying all he needs to do is stay healthy. All he needs to do is stay healthy.
Yep. So you kind of get that complacency you see regular season, and I think that's something the NBA has been trying to fix. But I really think they need to take a deep dive into how can we get this so it matters. I mean, obviously it matters, but how do we get them to care? Maybe change up a couple rules and gameplay, maybe make something more difficult. I don't know. There's got to be something done there. But yeah, I'm
just tired of seeing 135 to 130 games.
Well, yeah, this has been highest scoring season ever on record for the NBA, and I think
it's
part of that goes. I mean, one goes to the skill. You don't want to take away from the guys out there. The shooting skill has never been higher. The shooting skill is at an all-time high because every guy who's there grew up in a generation where they let you take 3-pointers at will. Well, a lot of older guys, as we know, when you were getting coached, it was a 3 was seen as a bad shot almost every time.
I had the green light.
Because it was like, oh, well, you
shooter's gonna shoot.
No, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it was looked upon that. Like, oh, you're too far out. You'll never make this at a high enough clip for this to be efficient enough, right? We need to not go away from this. But now, every guy who's in the league now grew up where, no, we balance the threes and the layups. And, like, what's the most efficient way to score? And so you see these guys who have almost perfected shooting. And you couple that with the defensive rules that are in place, the freedom of movement, which is called ruthlessly in the NBA, and the defense at 3 seconds, which prevents help side defense. And that's where you get these crazy scores. It's a perfect storm of skill and rules. And I think that kind of creates like those lopsided games. If you go cold for a little bit in an NBA game, you find yourself down 30 points, and it's like, what the hell are we going to do now? We might as well, experiment with some stuff, throw some different guys out there, and now that 30 points turns into 40, or maybe it's just a 25-point loss, but it's like you get that imbalance. So,
yeah.
But give the credit to the Joker. It's been pretty amazing. And the Nuggets have been great this year.
Some people call me the
last thing from Sunday. Oh boy. Last thing from Sunday to cap off Sunday happened Sunday night. Richmond race. NASCAR Cup Series in Richmond. Richmond. Denny Hamlin, who from the Richmond area, from Chesterfield to be more exact, he won in OT. Martin Truex was leading dominant car. Gonna cruise to victory in kind of a controversial caution. Bubba Wallace and Kyle Larson got a little tangled up. Larson spun out but was able to save himself. There was no wreck, nothing, but they threw the caution with 2 laps left. So they go to a 2-lap shootout, and Denny was the number 2 in car at the restart, so they're restarting head to head. He gets a little jump on him and just takes off and runs away with it. It was Hamlin's 5th career victory at Richmond, his home track, which is pretty amazing. And not a lot of people get to, especially a sport like NASCAR, like you're not always at home. He gets 2 home games a year, right? And to win 5 times in his career when it's so hard to win, like you win a NASCAR race. Too. Is that night? Yeah, you win a NASCAR race at the same clip as a PGA Tour event, like the elite people do. So 5 times at one track is pretty amazing. So good for Denny.
Shout out Denny Hamlin.
Yep.
I'm the man.
And yep. And our last bonus, you brought up your boy Joe Beninati and Craig Laughlin earlier, but Joe B working some overtime hours this weekend, called the Caps shootout loss to the Bruins on Saturday night, which Ovi had a chance to walk it off. I don't know if you saw that. He missed it.
He's been historically bad in shootouts.
Yes. Had a chance in extras. I think it was the bottom of the fourth in the shootout. Had a chance, missed it. Bruins came down and iced it. But called that game Saturday night. Sunday night was calling the Maryland at Penn State men's lacrosse game. Penn State defending national champions, and Maryland ranked high like always. So shout out to Joe B. Pretty good to see that.
Yeah, shout out Joe B.
That's all I got. That's all that caught my eye. You guys, anything else caught your eye? Any bonuses? Any shout outs?
I had one bonus. I thought it was really funny. So how, like, for a while there, it sounded like the Caps and the Wizards were moving to Alexandria, and it turns out it was just the owner, Ted Leonsis, just kind of using a bargaining chip to get more money from DC's Mayor Bowser to renovate that whole area into like a municipal complex for the Caps and Wizards. So he used his positioning as a possibility of having a mega arena in Alexandria to position himself to have a better like funding in DC. Well, in an interview that he gave recently, Ted Leonsis blamed the city of Richmond and Hampton Roads because they're not on board with like the team moving to Alexandria. He has some roundabout reasoning for explaining why the deal fell through, like as if he ever really actually wanted it to happen.
Well,
and he says it's like Virginia is two separate states. You have Nova, and for those of you that aren't familiar with the great state of Virginia, A, we're for lovers, B, Nova is short for Northern Virginia. And he says you have Nova, and then you have the Richmond area. And he proceeds to just like passively smack talk the rest of Virginia as opposed to Nova. And I stumbled upon this article from Axios Richmond, and they said, first off, Virginia's like 6 states, not 2. And they list off like Nova, Richmond, Hampton Roads, Charlottesville, Roanoke, and whatever the hell is to the west of Roanoke. But it was just a really, really good article, and they said, man, if there's anything that the citizens of Virginia have in common, it's that you know that you don't start a street fight with people from Richmond and people from Hampton Roads. Well, Ted Leonsis pissed them both off.
That's true.
I thought that was pretty good.
I love it. I think that's a good piece to end on. Good inaugural show. Claps all around.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Everyone, thanks for listening. If you chose to take your time, sit down with us, go through all that stuff. I know it's a lot, but each week is 7 days. Spoiler alert, and that's 7 days you can fill up your sports calendar with and be in tune for. And we're looking forward to another great 7 days. This week we got the Final Four over the weekend. Got a bunch of other stuff, more baseball, more hockey, more basketball. It's a great time to be a sports fan. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys, Boy, Komlo, for being here. Like I said, my name is Nick Vesci. Everyone be good to each other and have a good one. We'll see you next time.
Peace.